Hola, ¿cómo estás? This is Dr. Akala Kama'at, the Power Prophet, coming at you live, actually live today. And I hope there is peace and joy and happiness among all the beautiful souls that may not find their way here. May this find its way to them and hold them and cover them. Peace, joy. Yes. Amen. It's always so good to be here. You know, I really enjoy doing lives. I mean, one day I'll get into the meat and potatoes of it. I grew up as a dancer. Started at 9, ballet, tap, modern, jazz, went to college for dance, danced in LA, danced all over California, danced all over the world. So I did acting and musical theater and singing. So I have to admit, there is performer in my blood. Okay. And once I situate myself into this YouTube realm, it is what I know. This can only get better and better and better and better and better and better. There it is. I claim it. I receive it. May abundance flow this way. May it flow into your life. Abundance based on authentic purpose. So you don't have to constrain your identity in weird ways. Your purpose to fit somebody else's goals. So listen, okay, I could get into a lot of stuff. I mean, I just have to say right off the bat, I redid my description because I had to put in there bodacious and also brilliant and funny and wise. Look, if I can't, a long time ago, I saw a video on TikTok and it did something to me. In its very short, 1 minute life moment I had it. It was a woman standing in the mirror, a beautiful woman, nicely dressed. Her friend was standing on the side. And her friend said, "You look nice." And this woman had the audacity to say, "I know." If that moment in time, because we never know what's going to sit with us and make sense for that moment. That's the spirit talking to you when that happens. It's giving you something yummy, whether it's good or bad. Yummy, some things that are yummy. No, some things are gross, some things are yummy, but it's giving you something yummy that perhaps you need to chew on and reflect on, right? And so I took that. I know. And a lot of us walk around here with our heads down low, acting all modest. People compliment you. You don't want to say anything. Oh, no. No, that's you. That's right. That's you. No. They giving you your glory. They affirming you. No. I'm to the stage right now where, yes, I am all that and more. I'm infinite. I'm wise. I'm brilliant. I'm bodacious. I'm beautiful. And who cares what anybody thinks? I'm claiming what is me. That girl in the mirror didn't care what her friend thought. She was feeling her fullness, celebrating who she is. And I got to give it, these Gen Zers, I keep saying these Gen Zers, but these are individual people. I'm doing psychic reading, so I got to go offline. I forgot to click off. These are people, youngins, who know better than Gen X and baby boomers that they step into stuff that's they just express themselves freely. Freely. Give me a second. I'm just logging out of some stuff here. Yeah, but it's done so easily and freely. And so, as a Gen Xer, I was reading online about Gen X, and they talk about how we're all powerful and knowing in the generation of technology. And yeah. It's a blanket thing because I know for particular groups of Gen Xers who were being integrated into white schools in the suburbs, out of our neighborhoods, away from what we know, and into these mansions and perfect green lawns and all this stuff being taught by white folks, predominantly white students. I don't think there was one black teacher when I was in school. But we've been really, you know, and as latchkey kids coming home from dealing with racial trauma all day, yeah, you're not being accepted. They don't talk about anything that resonates with you. You're sometimey friends because white people will play with you and then leave you. But this is my experience back then. And then, you know, you don't get invited to nobody's house. Trauma from kindergarten to 5th grade. But, you know, my parents did what they did. Listen, some Gen Xers, some groups of Gen Xers have had to work through the conditioning, the socialization at that very young age. And some of us has taken almost a lifetime to move through that. But those things resonate. And the thing about the compliments and the believing and claiming, yes, we have grown. But still, from that rearage, if that's a word, rearing in that environment, you know, our comments or compliments were subordinate. And so I think some of that subordination energy sort of exists when we of the Gen X, somebody compliments us, we bow and no, and don't want to accept it because somewhere inside there's a inferiority at work. That's another video, another live. I'm not walking that walk anymore because it didn't serve me at all. All right. So, yeah, that's part of the release. What is the power of release? Look, it's doing inventory like you are an addict in your life and understanding the things that you've taken on that don't serve you, that burden you, that hold you back, that you may not even have really given thought to. It's an inventory. And I worked in drug recovery and I did go to AA. I'm not going to sit here and act like I didn't have some situations in my life that were brought on by my own ignorance and naivety, believing that people would just like me. If I worked hard, I would be okay. I would still get what I deserved because I worked hard. You know, I got my PhD because the goal was to get respect. But let me tell you, after I got the PhD, I got less respect than what I had when I was just living my life. As what my friends used to call me, a wild child. I was a little dysfunctional, but I was free. I wasn't worried about respect because I was just doing me. I got into the system. At the highest level, or a high level, one of the highest levels. And it was just an interesting road. So I'm really on here today. You know, all of this plays into what is the power of release. You know, what is it? And so today I'm just going to go through some points that really, you know, the power of release, these lives, what I'm doing on social media, what I'm doing out in my speaking events, is really just communicating what I understand about the power of release and the life transformation that I have undergone and still undergoing, because daily I have to do the work to maintain steady in what I know now as to why I was placed on this earth. And so I'm just going to go over some points, you know, wrote some stuff up. But I just want to share this with y'all. And this really speaks to my time in academia and then my moving through it. So for over 2 decades, you know, I was a social science, what you don't know, a professor, a PhD, in a large research university. I had at this time built my entire identity on that title. It was my focus, aspirational, long-term goal. And then when I was in it, that was it. My entire identity, who I was in office and out office, was on that title. And for decades, I told the line in a life journey that was defined by what some call the ivory tower. But that tower, for some, and for me as a Black woman, was not a place of open intellectual pursuit. It was a place that exhausted my natural essence, my life energy. It was a system that, while preaching academic freedom, practiced a kind of institutional racism that attacked me and my sister peers, some of them who knew, professionally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and psychically. So I left. I walked away from a 25-year career. And when I left that life behind, let me tell you, I had to learn from scratch the profound metaphysical and spiritual process of what I call release, because that's what it felt like, release. And, how we move beyond just the physical act of leaving a job or ending a situation and into the spiritual, intuitive work of letting go. It's a journey. It's a journey of how to mourn the old, to truly make room for and embrace an authentic new, to recover your life and renew it. And so, this story is not unique. I'm sure there's a ton of people that talk about, leaving, leaps of faith, what was going on. I mean, we all have a story, but everyone is unique to the individual and to the life that leads them into. So when I first left, let me tell you, I was not brave. I was actually terrified because I just leaped without even looking. At this point, I had like a nervous breakdown. I didn't even care. The feeling of losing my identity, all that I was in that space and what I carried with me everywhere, the losing of it was overwhelming. I mean, my entire sense of self-worth had become dependent on an external classification and validation. I was Dr. Warren, the research scientist, professor. My value was based on the things I had, the title, the work toward tenure, the publications, my activity as a speaker in the scientific conference world. Unknown. But when those are gone, my question was, who am I? I remember standing in my office packing up 2 decades of life into boxes. And a profound feeling, a hollowing grief came into me. It was more than just leaving a building at that time. It was the death of an identity. It was the realization that I had been for so long labeling myself according to socially sanctioned rules and mores and conventions. I had taken on or taken up that illusion, the representation of someone else, of a thing that was created in terminology and tracked by something else, someone else, instead of living my own authentic expression of self. I was a round peg, bigger than the square hole that they were trying to force me. That career was a life I had forced myself into. I really did. Nobody did anything in my life that I did not allow. Okay. And so I take ownership over a lot of it. And the cost was immense of me forcing my round self into a too small square. It led to mental health challenges, alcoholism, to isolation. I was living with a constant, profoundly distressing energy when I was in that space. Let me tell you, that was 25 years of profoundly distressing energy, because the intuitive warning started actually the minute I decided to go back to college. I went to college for dance, so I went back to do the normal thing, right? Get a job that could make you money. I had the warning signs then, but I was naive. And ignorance is not an excuse. But I was ignorant about how my body was communicating with me. Don't do that. It's the biggest mistake. No, it's not a mistake. Everything happens the way it should to create the wonderful entity, this beautiful soul you see here. I wouldn't change a thing, but there were warning signs. Okay. And, you know, this is the first and most crucial lesson that I got from what I just shared with you, that letting go is not just a physical act. It is actually a spiritual one, because we cannot embrace a new life until we have properly mourned the old, right? We must grieve the identity we are shedding. We must sit with the discomfort, the fear, and the emptiness. Very important. We try so hard to rush past this part to jump right into a new opportunity. And look, I tried to do this before and jumped into and left and jumped into a new opportunity. But you cannot build on a land that has not been cleared. The death, the mourning is the clearing. So there I was in that empty, in that empty space within myself, just blank. Well, inside and outside, because the way I was feeling inside was being projected into everything I saw outside. A dark night of the soul, to say the least. But so in that silence, in that grief, in that emptiness, a shift began to happen. And let me tell you, this is not like boom, boom, boom. What I'm sharing with you happened over a long period of time. Well, I'm talking about maybe 12 months, 18 months. Yeah. I realized that holding on to a painful identity was like holding my breath. Releasing it was the first full-bodied exhale I had taken in 25 years. Yes, chest breathing all the way. I gotta use that diaphragm to get that full-bodied exhale, right? So this shift was anchored in practice, right? For me, it was meditation. You know, I developed a dark awake routine. I'm coming from academia, we make our own things to say something else. Meditation and reflection. I'm not going to diminish the power of the dark awake. So I would sit in the pre-dawn stillness and just be. I would sit in the melanated expanse that unfolded beneath my lids. And I would listen, and I would look, and I would fall into that melanated expanse. It's a lot of layers to this. And then it was the work of radical self-acceptance, right? And that was attached to going through this period of radical resonance where, I was synergizing with my highest self and synergy with, the divine source of all. And it was difficult. Radical self-acceptance is a dialectical behavioral a therapy term, but when I was in that therapy, I loved it because the radically self-accept means, in my experience, you just make a decision to radically self-accept, and you just do. Now, that is also the daily choice of self-love. And so, and there's some other parts, the dark awake routine, the black light, which really expanded meditation as not just an act to understand your inner voice and collect or synergize with, the divine source. The dark light is a place where the darkness, the blackness, becomes comfortable. And it's no longer a space of discomfort, but it is a place that reveals and activates not only the synergy with your divine source, but it emanates the energy of collective capacity. You begin to understand the entanglement, and people use the word quantum entanglement, but you begin, through the exercises that I engage, begin to feel this entanglement. And in the book, I call it, and I know I'm saying this wrong, Ubuntu, UBUNTU. And that is, I exist, or I am because we are. And so that radical self-acceptance and self-love cannot exist without the black light and feeling comfort in the darkness that can allow you the opportunity to feel the entanglement that quantum physics talks about, because it just seems so abstract from them. But in the black light, that's where I found that profound connectivity. And that is where the self-love comes in, because if you're trying to love yourself, but don't see how you're connected to everybody else and how what happens to them happens to you and how vice versa, then that's not self-love. I don't know what that is. That's a maladapted self-love. And so out of this dark awake routine, the black light, radical renaissance, and radical resonance and self-acceptance, and the self-love, which I like to call the radiance path. It really took me out of a space, or really helped me unfold into something that in all that work had not been central. All of that had not been central to me in any way until I started to feel like I had to disengage from that. And so in those activities that for me are a combination of metaphysical, spiritual embeddedness, I began to understand my identity not as a social construct, but as an essence, a spirit. I connected with the spirit. And that brings me to what happened next, the next lesson, so to speak. Your identity is not your job, everybody. And maybe people know this, and maybe I didn't. But your identity is not your title. Your purpose is not your job. Your identity is your authentic essence, your spirit you bring to everything you do. And do we not know how often we have to tell that spirit to go away while we function as an automaton to make this work, the system, this illusion go? So in those activities, I was no longer Dr. Warren, the research professor. I actually became a Kaila, Ka, Ma'at, My given name, Jennifer R. Warren. I love it. Love Jennifer. But through this process, I emerged as Dr. I still use the doctor. I mean, I paid for it. I'm going to use it, right? I'm not going to throw that away. Dr. Akila Kamaat. If ain't nobody going to respect me for it, I'm going to respect me for it. Look, it's your world. And the only way it's going to work the way you want it to is if you grab on to the things that your essence tells you to. Your intuition, your synergy. Your synergy. And so I was Dr. Akila Kamaat. Akila's life. I'm going to give you the short version of Akila's life. Ka speaks life into souls that are oppressed and dimmed and exhausted. And Ma'at is the harmony. I speak life into souls to bring harmony, not only to that individual, but to their life. And in that newness, in that renewal, Dr. Akila Kamaat is a person committed to purposeful authenticity. And I believe we all should be committed to purposeful authenticity. And I could expound right now, but these are some of the things I will talk about. Right? This shift moved me from a life of egoism. Believe me, I was egocentric. I was extremely selfish. I was as a dancer, as a performer from 9, it was embedded, the ego. The external, give me the applause, validation. I was selfish, self-absorbed. And that's how I walked. And academia made it even worse. I was constituted by the external. So the shift from egoism moved into a life of oneness, Ubuntu. So I am one with the collective, and the collective is one with me. I began to understand that we are all connected, that there is a synergy flowing through us, the universal life force, which is the divine source of all, right? Different names, different things. The universal life force. And that synergy, in a way, speaks to that entanglement that quantum physics speaks to, but not necessarily in science terms. You know, that science terminology is to really communicate with people wedded to logic. I'm going to stop there for now. I realize that of course, they're wanting to know if these things are true, but that is for the people who need rational thought. Yeah? Many of us utilize rational thought at some times, logic other times, which they could be seen as synonymous, but really sit in the intuitive space. And in knowing. Knowing is not tied to that. Knowing is, I'll talk about knowing. You know, I realize there's a divine power working through and within us. But for so many years, my divine power had been held captive by myself and by environment. You know, these were blockages and obstacles of a life that didn't fit. And try as I might to please my father, to please my mother, to think I was pleasing other folks who looked at me and think that I was doing something, to show everybody that I was bigger and better and better. That's ego. All ego. They were blockages. They were selfish. Not only blockages that dimmed my spirit, but blockages to real, authentic connection with people I should have been loving on the whole time, right? The release was also the act of removing those blockages. So we're mourning, and then we are getting a shift in perspective through metaphysical and spiritual embeddedness. Okay? So maybe some of that sounds serene, I don't know. But none of that it wasn't. The third part of my journey, and of course I have to break it into component parts to make it sound like it was like part A, part B, part C. No, some of these things overlap. Some of these things took 3 months, 6 months to get to. So the third part of the journey is embracing the unknown. That's the renewal, or that's the recovery renewal. They should be one word together. Recover-newal. Life recover-newal. I left that stable career, money-wise, because it definitely wasn't stable, to start my own thing. My walk now is this. I am the power of release. And this is what I will do, because this is what I'm called to do. I have had so many diverse experiences in my life. I didn't really understand why I moved from there to there to there to there to this to that. Because I'm a messenger. I had to learn all these different spaces and places, and then crumble, and then rebuild, renew myself. This is my purpose, the power of release. And it is the unknown. And it is overwhelming. Starting a business, and this is the last third of my life, right? I gave away the first, third, second. I'm not talking about when I was a kid, like 18 and down, but I gave away the first third after I left the house, second third, academia. This is the last third of my life. And I do have something to share. And it is through the framework and philosophy of the power of release. So overwhelming it is, because there are days, I don't know, they could take my car perhaps, if I don't have the money to pay my bills. Sometimes the rent is like, what? I'm committed. I'm committed because I saw the vision. I saw it. I can't communicate it. I don't want any of those distressing energies to sort of make that energy of manifestation disappear. And vulnerability is part of the process of embracing the unknown. A lot of people don't like to be uncertain because it's scary, especially if you've been living in interesting situations and you do need to know what's up. And because of that need to know, folks go back because the length of time in the unknown is unbearable. So they return. I did after COVID-19. And when I returned, it was as if the universal life force created a tsunami inside of me. I just could not stand it a moment longer, and I stayed there for 3 years. Well, 2. The last year I went out on FMLA because I was broken down inside. But I'd rather have this vulnerability here, striving in my authentic purpose, than to be putting on the mask that they said I had to wear and falling into line that they said I had to do in academia. And I realized that, with this leap or this leaving or this directed disengagement um, the conditions were not ideal. Many times we can't wait for the ideal conditions. We're like, when I get enough money, when I get this, when I get that, I need that. We gotta have the baby. We gotta do that. I get it, and like I talk about informed, trauma informed care. We accept people where they are, but for many people, that's an excuse. An ideal there are no ideal conditions. There are no ideal conditions. And I could not stay and try to do something new within somebody else's system. It just didn't make any sense. So, in all this, in building something new, the renewal, I recovered my life through sitting in ways to shift my perspective, which were metaphysical. And I do say, my psychic work was part of that. I enjoyed doing psychic readings, and I would do something called morning affirmations. And I'm telling you what, I gave it out, but I needed it just as much as I was giving it out. And that really, really helped. It led me to a lot of study, just so much study. A lot of study, which I'll bring to you. Some of it's related to, having melanated skin, history, Kemet. Some people reach to quantum physics, Indian spirituality, Asian spirituality. But there are many of us who, yes, those things are important. And I take what I feel is important and make it into something that works within my framework. But I have to say that my emergence as a spiritual guide is really tied to Kemeticism. Maybe not practicing all the way with diet and all that stuff. I don't eat what I used to eat. But that's my situatedness. That's where I come from. From the first civilizations that birthed in Africa. That's where my wisdom, my spirituality unfolds from. And one day I'll talk about Akma. Akma is me, but not in this life. And I will go on to that some other day. So going through, I got a little serious there, didn't I? It got a little serious. I got quiet when I say Akma. It's, let me tell you, I was powerful mystic. And then at certain times, when I came back, Akma was, I wasn't Akma with that name, but I was persecuted. Look, I ain't gonna go into that right now. I'll do a past life thing because I think all of us need to know something about our past lives for those of us who believe in it or not. Might be interesting talk. But what I went through, the release processes, as I've said, the death and mourning, the dark awake routine, the black light, radical resonance, and the radiance path of self-love were really important to me, releasing and recovering and renewing. But release is not a single event. It's not a one and done, and nobody should think about this like that. It's an ongoing daily practice. You just don't release a quarter of a century long career once. You release it every morning, and you release the junk that has been operative in your life, but not to functionality, but to dysfunction, right? So it's not even that career that's being released. It's the things that allowed you to put yourself in that space as well. Because if those are not being released, again, that will carry over even into your new journey. Because there was not enough reflection, understanding, and meditation to discern the things that have been operative in your life, where you would have such a self-perspective, that you would lend your time in an oppressive environment that could care less about you. So you don't just release once. You release it every morning you wake up. And when you must define your own schedule, because nobody's telling you when you leave and you're building new, the time you need to do it, the organization of your day. In certain situations, we know we have calendars, we know what we're supposed to do. When those are gone, we got this meeting, that meeting, see this student, write that book. When that's gone, you got to do that yourself. So you release every morning you wake up. You release when you have to define your schedule. You release it when you meet new people. And I can't say, hi, I'm Dr. Warren, Jennifer Warren. I'm a research professor at a very large university. You know, I got lots of publications. I'm smart. I don't think I talk like that. But it was an easy go-to. And people were drawn to it. Just like a dance. I would dance. People were drawn to it and they clapped. So maybe the people I was telling that to didn't clap, but they sure was like, oh, you're a black woman with a PhD? I mean, if that's not addictive, I don't know what is. That's why some of that stuff that AA taught me are implemented in a way that makes sense for me in the power of release. Let me tell you. You release it when you choose to orchestrate your life instead of just trying to lift what somebody else, trying to lift what you allowed somebody else to place in your hands. Because we have a choice. Many times we don't think we have a choice, but we have choices. You know, this ongoing practice is what creates the space for new opportunities to emerge. You got to be open. You got to be ready. You got to know where your junk is. So you're not making a mistake in that next opportunity. We are constantly shedding painfully what we know to be true. But the outcome of that release, the outcome is a profoundly de-stressing energy that is fueled by your synergy with the divine source of all, the universal life flow can move through you. And this is the difference between being forced and then emerging as a force. You know, I was reading one of Bruce Bynum books. He writes a lot about the African unconsciousness. He's a psychologist, academic, but he's really into just a lot of wonderful, insightful information about spirituality. I mean, it's phenomenal. You know, the idea of being a force never came to me. I know the universal life force, that's different. Of course, that's like something else. But in this book, he identified individuals as energy and as a force, because energy has a force. And I was like, see how you take things? You want to emerge as a force. You don't want to be forced. And you don't want to force the others. You want to be a force, an engaging, integrative, wellspring of harmony and peace. Force. When you see yourself as a force, and you know, I was doing some workshops and I was talking about the strong black woman stereotype about being strong and how I got a problem with the word strong. I don't like people calling me strong because I'm not a horse. I'm not a weightlifter. I'm powerful because I am energy. I'm a force. And I was talking to some women and they were like resistant to being called powerful. That's the way in which socialization positions us. And that was what, 2024? on now. A powerful woman, a powerful Black woman. Now that takes on a whole nother thing. There's still strength in that power. But why do you have to call me strong? It sounds so limiting and burdensome. Don't call somebody, another woman, strong. Give them powerful. Even if they don't even exude it. This is not an animal, not a weightlifter. Nobody wants to carry a burden. Powerful. So I already told you, so some of the lessons, okay? We must mourn the old before we can embrace the new, because release is a spiritual act. We must shift our perspective to see that our identity is not our label, but our authentic essence. We must embrace release as an ongoing practice, creating space for our true purpose to find us. No, creating space for us to unfold into our true purpose, because it's already there. It doesn't have to find us. So my journey has been one of moving out of a life defined by external validations, from the external to the internal. It's one now defined from the internal to the external by internal, purposeful authenticity. That is the power of release. That is the sacred act of unfolding the awesome spirit, the awesomeness within you. Let me tell you, true power is not found in what you hold on to, that clenched fist. True power is found in what you have the courage to release. Okay? That's just a little bit of insight into why I'm here and to what drives me. Just a little bit of that. You know what I mean? Just a little bit of that. I'm just looking at the stream. It's got me up there looking crazy. I know you're like, what the hell she got on? Turquoise, burgundy, safari. Like I said, as me. And I am a uniquely made, period. I'm a force. And as a force, I do what that energy is drawn to. Yeah. So that's a little bit about what is the power of release. I mean, that's a little bit in a nutshell. I mean, my goal is really to strive to do some more teachings on it. It means a lot to me what I've been through, the transformation that overcame me or unfolded through my desire, not through my desire. I mean, I had to leave academia, and then the process of release had to happen. And you know what? I was on so many mental health medications. I was like taking a freaking pharmacy in the morning and at night. And through the process of release, it wasn't easy. And let me tell you, it was a dark night of the soul in the morning and the dark awake routine. Let me tell you. But I got off of all those medications. And it did what AA could not do. It released the urge to drink. I speak my truth. That's it. I speak my truth. And so I'm going to do a little bit more on those, on certain components of release. You know, I just want to let you know that I think it's important that if you want more, right? If you want more, you might want to check out. Oh, okay. Here's the book. The book I wrote. I wrote a few books. Some under Jennifer Warren, some under Dr. Kalakamaat. You know, I have many names. Akma, Raquel Richards, Daz Medell, There's so many. Anyway, if you want, take a picture of that, get your phone out, focus in on that QR code. It's on Amazon. The ebook may be coming out. I'm not sure because I'm working on another book. So I may try to do the ebook in between, right? So, it's so weird because I was looking up the other day, and when I was looking up, I look up at the camera on my monitor, but then I was looking up for the Instagram stream yesterday because I couldn't do both in the same program, and I was looking up too high, so I'm trying to discern where I should look. If I'm looking down, or I don't know. We'll figure it out. It all gets figured out. You know what I mean? But this is the book. If you want to read more about my experiences, and even now, I could rewrite that book and do a little bit more with it. But it was released as it was. I wrote it as it was, and I felt it at the time. And it was like I was on a mission to get this story out, this journey out from being a closed fist, clenching around crap that wasn't even me and believing it was, to opening my hand up and realizing and renewing myself within and as connected with others. So there's a QR code, it's there. Also, I want to talk about the release and relationship community. I hate that it has 00 on there. It makes it look so cheap. But right now, the space is open. Relationship and release community on Discord is open, and right now there is no cost. So if you come in now until March 30th, you get access to me because I'm a hands-on kind of gal. I like to be involved to help people be available. I'm not going to sell you a community like some folks I know and just throw a lot of videos in your face. No. I like to be in and aware, not because I'm nosy, but it's just, if I'm communicating this as something that's important and unique that I would like other people to learn about and maybe feel, then I need to be in a space to be able to communicate that inspiration, motivation, enthusiasm, affirmation to the people who would take the time to apply. And I have to say apply because when you go to the Discord site, you have to fill out a mini, thing, name, email, why you want to be there, blah, 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 blah. Because, this time in our society, folks and bots and come into these groups and it could be problematic. And not only that, everybody's running to school. School advertises so much, SKOOL. And, being bodacious, which is in my description, I'm not conventional and I'm sort of rebellious. And when everybody's running somewhere on a platform to do it, I don't know what it is. I just have to do this my way. And my way is not to run over there because they've been advertising like crazy for spiritual people, coaches, life coaches, psychic readers. No. I was going to go on Twitch, but me and Twitch and streaming has not been good. And building community in Twitch is a little weird. So Discord is where I go because I used it before when I first left academia, before I had to go back or felt I had to go back. And I loved it because we'd have real conversations. If people wanted psychic readings, I could do some free right then and there. We have video. We could put up the lessons. We could have focused discussions. I love Discord. Anyway, use this QR code. Go to Discord. I just fill it out. And I'll get an email. I do check the email to see. I get an email that you've done this. I do check to see if the email you provide is functional. I may send a test email to you. I got to do sort of the capacha, whatever you call it, that little game you play to make sure you're human. I have to do a little bit of that until my thing gets fully operable. If you're watching this, if you go and watch it and you're sitting here watching it, please like and subscribe. I know a lot of people are voyeurs. They want to come in and go out. I'm one of those folks that if I'm going to your profile and I'm reading some of your stuff, I might follow you because I'm reading it. If I go there more than one time, I'm definitely following you. And if I'm reading it, I'm going to like it or make a comment. Unknown caller. Sorry. Because that just helps the algorithms, right? If I'm on YouTube, which I am a lot looking at folks, a lot of people are striving. I always like and subscribe because it works with the algorithm. And there are times when people think that they're going to blossom, but they haven't put out the pay forward yet. The pay forward is to know you're connected and what you do for others is being done for you. So hitting the like and subscribe is doing for others, paying it forward. So again, I am because we are, so that can come back to you. So yes, apply for the Release and Relationship Community. Come on in and have some fun. All right. I think that's it for today. Sometimes I'm really long-winded. Yesterday I went an hour and a half, but I have class tonight. I was trying to get certified as an alcohol and drug counselor. Yeah, because I've been there. My sister was ensconced or just overwhelmed, embedded in just substance use. My mom, my dad even. So I know from my own experience and then from experiencing others how devastating this could be. And I do think that the power of release might be useful in, helping people recover from drugs, right? I don't know. I have a whole spiritual framework based on the power of release. Of course, you got to do an internship. I don't even know if I'm going to do all that. Because you got to, I don't even get into that. I just don't want to get into somebody's system. I just really don't. You know what I mean? Why am I frozen on here? I'm looking at myself on YouTube. All right, y'all. So really, that's all I got to share right now. If you want to get a psychic reading, I didn't really have it up here, but go to Hypesee, HYPSEE, and look for Dr. Kalakamaat. I don't know how it works because they get all these people that have all these followers on YouTube or wherever, and then you see their pictures. I don't know how. I think I have to give you the link. I'll put the link somewhere. Oh, it may be in my links on my, on the profile information. But anyway, look, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for looking. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you more than you will ever know. And all I want is to just lay out just the love and the harmony and the peace that I found and the fun and the creativity and the expression. Look, it's been a long haul, and I'm just so thankful for anybody that wants to come on in here and come on in here with me. I'm talking, whatever, take that as you will. I ain't talking sex though. Thank you. Have a blessed day, blessed evening. I appreciate you. And I'll be doing streams every day. I have to get the time right. I don't have a consistent time yet, but I will get this groove in and sort of figure out when's the best time to do this. They always want you to do it when your videos are looked at the most. Everything wants to drive you to where they think you're able to do whatever it is you want to do. I have to sit with the divine source and see. Thank y'all. Beautiful soul.